Hello and welcome everyone. This is Sandeep, and in the last video we have seen the basic implementation of our application, and this is the code that we had written in the last video. So coming back to this code, we see that we are instantiating the objects ourselves and we are managing the dependencies also ourselves. So in this video we'll go ahead and use Guice in order to create objects. So let's get started. So the first object which we are creating is this DrawShape over here. So we can use Google Guice over here to create this object. So we can create an injector. I will right now assign a null value to it, and later we will write some code in order to properly initialize it. Okay. And if you see, we need to import injector from this library. And after this, we can ask injector to provide us DrawShape. Get instance of DrawShape dot class, and that's it. Okay, and once you have this DrawShape obtained, you can supply it here in the square request in order to get the request itself. Now, what the pending work over here is to initialize this injector properly. Okay, so this is pending right now, and we'll come to that a little while later. Now, if you see here that what we have done is that we are asking Google Guice that, hey, Google Guice, give me the instance of DrawShape. Now, right now in our application, DrawShape is an interface whose concrete implementation is just draw square over here. If you, yeah, over here. Now, there might be a case in which DrawShape has got multiple concrete implementations. And in that kind of application, if you ask Google Guice that, hey, give me an instance of DrawShape, then it gets confused that which one you are asking for, which one Google Guice should provide. So there should be some sort of metadata where it has to refer to see that what kind of DrawShape should it supply when user is requesting for one. Okay, so we'll right now go ahead to define such kind of metadata. So I have already created a package here, a com.drawingapp.module. Inside this, we can create a class. We can name it as app module. This class has to extend abstract module, and we can import this abstract module from this library. And there is a method called as configure over here, which we need to override. And over here, we can provide such kind of metadata which I was talking about. Draw square. And we are done providing that kind of metadata. So over here what we have done is we have created app module class which extends abstract module, and we have overridden a configure method. And under this configure method, we are telling Google Guice that whenever a user request for draw shape type, then you have to supply a concrete implementation of draw square. Okay, so that's how we are telling Google Guice right now. Now we can come back to our main class, and we can see that the code that we have already written, as per that, it should go and ask for draw shape, and internally it should refer to this app module which we just wrote, and it should provide us a draw square. But now we have to write some code over here so that it refers to this app module. So what we can do is, in this injector, we can write some code to create this injector, and we can supply this metadata over here. So now we are done in initializing our injector as well. So what we are doing here is we initialize our injector and we supply this class, the instance of this class, which is nothing but contains the binding, that is the metadata, that which type is bound to which concrete implementation. And then once this injector is ready, we just ask this injector to give back a draw shape, and in the current case it will be draw square, and then we supply this draw square in a square request in order to get a square request object, and then we make a request to draw the square. So let's run this and see if it works. So it works. So the code to instantiate or to create an instance of DrawShape is working properly. Now, one more thing what we can do here is, you see that though we have written the code and we have eliminated this piece of code where we were instantiating draw square, but still there is some part of the code which instantiates square request. So we can get rid of this code also, and we can ask Google Juice to instantiate square request also for us. Okay, so we can comment out this code, and what we can do is, we can ask Google Juice in the same way as we asked earlier to give us a square request. Like this, and we can get rid of all of this earlier code also. I'll just remove all this clutter. So we need to have injector here, and we can also remove this draw shape now, and I'll show you how it works. Yes. So what we are doing here is we create an injector and we supplied this module to this injector. In this module we have bindings which tell that what type is mapped to what concrete implementation, and here in the current case draw shape is bound to draw square. In the next line, what we say is, we say that square request is an object, and I am requesting Google Juice to give me an object of square request. Now, on this request, Google Juice goes to this class and sees that whether it can create an object of square request or not. It sees that this is the constructor present, and it can go ahead and use this constructor to create an object of square request. But this constructor accepts a draw shape, right? So now Google Juice gets confused, a little confused, that what kind of draw shape should I supply here. Then it refers to this app module, which is the binding, and it says that whenever a draw shape is needed, you have to supply draw square. So what it does is, while instantiating an object of square request, it encounters draw shape and it refers to this app module and comes to know that draw shape has to be bound to draw square. Then it creates a draw square and supplies the dependency over here in the square request in this constructor, and that's how it obtains an object of square request and gives me back over here. And then we just make a call to make a request. Let's see if this runs. Okay, we are getting some exception. Okay, what we have done is, though we have asked square request to be a constructor or to be instantiated from Google Juice, as I told here, it will come here and it will see this constructor, and it has to supply this dependency. So one last thing that we want to do is to have this inject annotation over here, which will guide Google Juice that, while you are instantiating a square request using this constructor, you have to inject this draw shape, and to do that it will go to this app module binding and figure out what is the concrete implementation which it should bound to. That's how it can obtain a square request, and that's how it gives me a square request back here. And now if I run this, I get a square drawn on the console, right? So what we have learned here in the current video is that how we can use Google Juice in order to create our instances, how we can create our module, which is nothing but the metadata of all the bindings, where we tell Google Juice that what kind of binding is mapped to what kind of its concrete implementation. And when we say that draw shape is bound to draw square, it means two things. It means that if a user is asking for a draw shape, then Google Juice has to supply an instance of draw square. And the second thing is, when user asks for something else, for example in the current case square request, then also square request requires draw shape, and in that case also it has to refer to this binding and it has to supply a draw square over here. So it supplies draw square in the constructor of square request and gets the square request back. Thank you very much.